Let's talk about building a positive practice, how to shift from therapy to coaching. I'm Dr. Paul Jenkins. I'm a professional psychologist who actually made the shift, and I can show you exactly how I did that so that you can have more fun and make more money. For today's video, I'm talking to you, the clinician, the therapist, the counselor. If you're here wondering if you need therapy or if you need coaching, I've got other videos for that. But this is for you as the practitioner. How can you make that shift? Now, to put a context on this, I want you to think about the mental health continuum or spectrum. So if we put your mental health on that spectrum, clear over here on the left end is the sick end. That's where we have diagnosis, pathology, treatment, all that fun stuff is over here. I'm really more interested and passionate about the other end of the spectrum. And to understand that, let's go to the middle first, where I'm putting health. Now you'd think that health is the opposite of sick, but I'm putting it in the middle, meaning not sick. Think about your physical health. You can be sick in bed with a fever, throwing up. There comes a time you can get out of bed and you're not sick. But that doesn't mean you're truly fit, thriving, prospering. That's over here on this end of the spectrum. I have moved my practice from this end of the spectrum, where I spent about 15 years in my early career doing traditional psychotherapy, over to this end, which is my coaching practice. And there's some overlap here in the middle of the spectrum. Everybody's got issues. Have you noticed? Yes. And it doesn't mean that you're sick. To acknowledge that you're experiencing some typical human experiences like stress, anxiety, depression. That's middle of the spectrum. When we talk about it as a typical human experience, we all get to have those. It doesn't mean that you're sick. It might just mean that you're human. Welcome to the planet. That's how we roll here. But unfortunately, and check this out if this resonates with your experience, the term psychotherapy sounds a little like therapy for psychos, which is unfortunate because, like I said, I spent about half of my career over here providing traditional psychotherapy. And there's a lot of folks here in the middle of the spectrum who are not going to sign up for that. I don't need that. I'm not that sick, right? Now, the people who really are at that end of the spectrum, they're going to go sign up and they're going to get what they need. But these people in the middle, probably not. And then I've noticed on this other end of the spectrum, there are high performers, elite athletes, people who are leading and shaking out there who get coaching. They pay big dollars to go get high-powered coaches to help them out with whatever they're doing. But the people in the middle of the spectrum may not understand what's available to them over on the coaching end of the spectrum. And so I look at this middle of the spectrum as a very underserved population. Now, what does this have to do with you as a clinician? For me, I experienced over here on this end of the spectrum, as I was helping my clients to apply principles of psychology to their life in a way that allowed them to move forward on that continuum to a point where they got out of bed and they weren't sick anymore. And guess what happened? The insurance company pulled the plug and said, "Oh, thanks, doc." They're no longer clinically in need. There's no longer a medical necessity for your treatment. Thank you and goodbye. And I'm like, wait, there's more. My clients knew this too. There's got to be more on this end of the spectrum. But that's not medically necessary. So the therapy model doesn't cover it. And there's all these people who are starting in the middle who probably don't even show up in your therapy office. And they're probably not signing up for the high-end coaching either. And so how are they going to receive service? Do you see why I'm calling this an underserved population? And that's where probably the bulk of our population is. It's not out on the tails, it's here in the middle. Now notice something. You already, by virtue of your training, your licensure, your experience as a clinician, you already have a sweet skill set that allows you to work with people over here and get them out of bed. What if you could use that same skill set, that same experience, to bring a service in the middle and that could potentially get you into the high-end coaching that a lot of people are investing in nowadays because they see the value for it. I already told you that I personally made the shift. It was about halfway through my career where I was doing traditional psychotherapy, and now I do exclusively positive psychology-based coaching. Personal, professional, or family development coaching. Now, why do we call it coaching? Because it's not therapy. I don't give anybody a diagnosis. I fired all the insurance companies. Everything that we do in my practice, Live on Purpose, is to help people to save and enrich their 7 key relationships through the application of positive psychology principles, and that's all on this end of the spectrum. I am having more fun and making more income as a result. So if this resonates with you, there's some things that you need to be really clear about in order to make the shift from traditional clinical work over to positive psychology coaching. In fact, I've broken this down into 7 specific clarities, and you can connect with this. If you go to the URL on the screen right now, just open it in a different browser, drpauljenkins.com/practitioner quiz. And what I'm going to do for you is put all 7 of those clarities in a quiz format where you can go in and see just where you are on each one of them. Give yourself a rating, click submit when you're done, and I will give you the results of that along with some ideas about what might be next for you. Now, as you gain clarity in all 7 of those areas that are listed on the quiz, you'll also need to redefine a bit how you think about yourself. In all of my training in clinical psychology and in 15 years of clinical practice prior to the shift, I had defined myself in some very specific ways. Don't be surprised that you personally get to go through a similar transformation to what it is that you help your clients to achieve when you're counseling with them. You're going to be redefining not only yourself, but the services that you offer, the fees that you charge. This is a transformational experience. For years, I tried to do both. I tried to do both therapy and coaching, but there's a different enough business model and philosophical approach to both of them that I just found that that did not work for me. Now, can you do both? I don't know. Maybe. I did for a while, but I finally came to the decision that I needed to decide which one I'm doing and invest fully in that. I remember one of my clients years ago came in and he said, "Doc, I want to live this kind of a lifestyle, but I also want to keep doing my opioids." And I'm like, okay, it seems to me like you've got 1 foot on the dock and 1 foot on the boat, and the boat is leaving. You got to decide which one you're in, or you're going to fall in the water. And that's kind of the experience that I had. I finally decided where I wanted to be, and then I had to face the next challenge, which is letting go of some of the things that I was really attached to. You know, I really enjoyed working with my clients in that clinical setting. I really did. And I was doing a lot of good for them. And there was a part of me that felt like it was my duty to stay there. Now, I want you to try something with me just now. Just take your right hand and place it on your forehead, the back of your hand on your forehead, like this. Okay? And I want you to just say, if only. All right? If only there were other therapists in this world who could take over that job. Okay, now I'm playing with you a little bit because that's where I was. I was like, oh, I need to go save the world. I need to be the one who's doing... No. Look, there's lots of talented, beautiful, amazing people out there who want to do the therapy. If you're drawn to the more positive end of the spectrum, it's okay. You can let go of this. And I refer on a regular basis to some of my trusted, esteemed colleagues to take care of this end of the spectrum. There's plenty of service available. Another thing that I got to let go of was the third-party payer. I don't miss it. I used to spend a good portion of every day doing administrative tasks simply so that we could bill the insurance companies. And I don't know how much you enjoy that administrative stuff. As a clinician, that's not what I signed up to be a psychologist for. I didn't want to fill out authorization forms all day, every day, to try to get some reduced contractual rate for the services that I was offering my clients, and then have that denied, so I had to go in and fill it out again. I don't know if you can relate to this. I don't miss the administrative hassles. But at the time that I made the transition, it was hard for me to let go of the insurance payments in order to receive the private payments. It's a very different business model, but I had to let go. And there will be other things that you'll notice along the way. I have colleagues who still to this day tell me that I'm crazy for doing this. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, they'll tell me. Well, okay, it's obviously not for you. But I can also attest to the fact that my life is better because I made the shift. I enjoy my practice immensely, and I am helping more people, especially this underserved population in the middle, to come to a connection with psychological principles that are absolutely transforming their lives. It's fun, it's meaningful, and I don't miss all of the hassles. Okay, one final thought before I turn you loose today, and that is you're probably going to need to get some people in your corner who get you. You know what I'm talking about here, because anytime you want to make a transition like what I'm talking about, from going from a clinical practice over to a coaching practice, the people over here are not necessarily going to support the move to here. So you might want to get some people on your team, in your corner, behind you, together with you, who understand what you're trying to do and can support you in the transition to this end of the spectrum. Did that answer some of your questions? It may have created more questions than it answered, and that's okay. This is a transformational process. It's not an event. So take that next step to complete the quiz that I gave you earlier, drpauljenkins.com/practitioner quiz. It'll just give you a little idea of where you are, where you're starting, and what might be next. I've got some ideas of how I can support you with that, so don't be surprised if I reach out to you. And you're welcome to reach out to me as well, because I got you on this.